We couldn't be more excited about this next session. I think inbox placement has never been more complex for email marketers or more consequential. So, an opportunity to hear directly from Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft and explore how they think about email and how it affects your subscribers, who, by the way, are also their customers, puts the conversation that we're about to have front and square in the don't miss it category. It's going to be a brilliant 45 minutes that's coming up. So we can't wait to get started. But first, let me just take a moment to introduce our very special guests. So firstly, Ross Adams, Principal Product Manager in the Microsoft Defender for Office team. Ross leads initiatives to strengthen email security and messaging infrastructure for Office 365, over 2 decades of experience in cloud systems and identity platforms. And Ross drives cross-functional efforts to improve authentication standards, mitigate abuse, and enhance user protection. He's known for blending technical depth with strategic vision to deliver scalable, secure solutions across Microsoft's ecosystem and customers. Ross, a real pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second up, Marcel Becker, Senior Director of Product Management at Yahoo. Marcel has a deep passion for all things email and how it connects people, consumers, and brands. He frequently speaks at conferences on mail, anti-abuse, deliverability, including forums like Morg and the CSA. He's known for his attention to application design and his strong opinions on project and product management best practices. And outside of work, he's also an improv enthusiast and occasional actor. Marcel, great to have you with us again.
Great to be back. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then our third very special guest, Dan Givol, Group Product Manager at Google, an experienced product leader specializing in bringing new products to market and driving growth from the ground up. He leads the Gmail anti-abuse team and is experienced in getting new products off the ground, leading product strategy, go-to-market, and product marketing. Dan, an absolute pleasure to have you on the session with us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited for this.
And then our fourth guest, my Validity colleague, Tom Bartel. And in the run-up to today, we were joking because as we were promoting the event, Tom described me as his venerable colleague. Well, right back at you, Tom, because I think you've been doing this email game even longer than I have. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Fair enough, Guy. Thank you. Yes. Hey, everybody, I'm Tom. I lead our data strategy services here at Validity. So my role is right at the kind of intersection of this conversation. I'm super excited. I try to make sure that we have the right data for our products and services here at Validity to serve our clients and partners for email success. And so that means we work with brands, we work with ESPs, we work with email security partners, and of course, mailbox partners like these amazing guests that we have here today. So super excited for this panel and this session today.
Awesome. Right. That's the intros done and dusted. Let's jump into the conversation. And I think a question which is probably top of mind with most of our email marketing senders today is to understand more about how mailbox providers think about email marketing. So what I mean by that is there an acceptance that legitimate permission-based messages that subscribers actually want to receive have a place in the inbox? Is there a baseline assumption on your part that most email is risky unless proven otherwise? And what are your expectations of responsible senders so that they are seen as the good actors who deserve to have their emails placed in their subscribers' inboxes? So quite a lot to unpack there. Ross, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can go first. So definitely in the consumer space, most of the mail that we receive is some sort of marketing material or, bulky type material that's coming through. So, and consumers want it, right? They're ordering things, they want to know about, various sales that are going on. So definitely, from a consumer perspective, they want to receive this sort of mail. So it's clear that, these users are after it. There is certainly, part of the system is reputation. If you're a bad actor, you'll get bad rep, etc. Obviously, people trying to abuse the system, but it's worthwhile thinking about this in the context of, how users perceive the messages, right? So there's no sort of magic bullet that will get you through this. If you send content that users want to receive, that they're not reporting as bad or unwanted, the way that they're interacting with the messages is really a pretty strong signal to us that people want the content. So think of this as, really about listening to the way that users are responding to the mail you're sending. Try not to flood them with mail. Keep things up to date. I will add, abuse occurs everywhere. So this is something that, we really have to watch, free accounts and temporary signups and these sorts of things. Lots of abuse, which doesn't help, right? It gives users a bad taste. It leaves, other things in, disarray, if you will. So really, this is about, customers want this sort of mail. Keep sending the mail they want, and everything should be, above board, if you will.
Some really solid advice there, and perhaps no real surprises in anything that you've said so far. Marcel, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. We love email marketeers, right? That's what consumer email is about, as Ross said. Most of the emails hitting consumer email boxes are from marketeers. And at the end of the day, it's very simple. Send mail users want, right? They decide what that is, not us. We're just there to make sure that they actually get the emails they want. And one thing which is important to understand as well, and a lot of people don't know that, like 90% of all the email floating around on the internet is malicious. Right? It's 10%, which is not. And our job is not so much to identify the bad stuff. It's more to identify the good stuff for our users. So make sure you send good stuff.
Absolutely. And Dan, I'm guessing that you're going to be broadly in agreement with both of those opening statements.
Absolutely. The one thing I would add, I agree with everything they said. The one thing I would add is today you're marketers as part of this webinar, but as soon as this is over, you become our consumers. Statistically, we are serving your personal account. And so put that lens on as you communicate with your users and ask yourself, do I want to receive this? Does my inbox look the way I would want it to look? And ultimately, our job is to make sure that it does, right? We are here to serve you as the consumer, also you as the sender, and we need to strike the right balance. And so from our perspective, as long as users want to receive it and it's not malicious, it's our job to deliver it.
Tom, let me bring you into the conversation. I sometimes think of you as the bridge between Validity and its customers and the mailbox providers that we've got joining us today. How's that sounding to you?
Yeah, I kind of hooked on the positive of this question about, do we assume a posture of bad email? And I think all the panelists have heard me talk about my 2 rules of deliverability, so I'm going to pull it out here. I always like to say the first rule is, as a sender, that it's not really about you. And that's because we sort of heard in the responses here, there's this 90% of really bad mail that's sort of polluting the system, and that does require a lot of attention as a platform operator. They're not looking to punish good senders just because they feel like it. They actually appreciate and applaud and want to get that wanted mail to the inbox. But the second rule is that it is all about you, right? It is all about doing the fundamentals well, clear, strong transmission, making sure identity is correct, email authentication, DMARC, all the things that have been well defined. But beyond that, just send wanted mail. Don't annoy recipients. Meet or beat the recipient expectations with your messaging. So it's easy, right?
Absolutely, in theory. So next question. Let's talk about the expectations that you as mailbox providers may have of responsible senders so that they are seen as those good actors. I think most of them fully understand the importance of maintaining good metrics, low bounce rates, low complaint rates, but curious to understand what's the impact when they don't and how quickly does corrective action make a difference? Marcel, can I put that one to you first?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it goes back to what we said before, right? Just make sure you send email people want. And if you generally behave in a good way, right, that carries forward. It's a little bit like in the human world. If you're in a bar and you typically, have nice conversations and you frequent this often and everybody likes you. Um, we tend to remember what we did over the course of the days. And if you just misbehave once, right, nobody will throw you out or say, hey, I don't like you anymore. But if you keep up that bad behavior, if you keep arguing with the bartender or the bouncer, and you keep basically alienating all the patrons in the pub, they will remember that. They will throw you out, right? And then no amount of apologizing the next morning when you're sober and saying, hey, you didn't mean it that way and you're generally a good guy will help you in that case, right? And that's a little bit the same with email reputation. If there's a spike, once, be it with spam votes or maybe you had a misconfiguration somewhere, nobody would
I
punish
love
you for
that
that, right?
analogy. And Ross, I think you've also got an analogy that you'd like to use to answer this question, right?
Yeah, it's similar to Marcel there. You can think of this as you're providing, like if we're hosting a party and you're sending people to the party, you're effectively recommending these people come to the party. If they're all very nice, we all get along very well. If you start recommending people who are not very nice, we start to, say, well, I don't know if I want to continue to take invites from that person anymore,
Mm.
right? So, and to be honest, as Marcel said, spikes occur. We all know that. But you should, and to Dan's point, you should really look at this as, can you help people not do bad things? I don't know. For example, I ordered a pair of shoes online, and then I ordered a wallet online, and then I got, bombarded with mail, right? Just bombarded with it. Do you want to buy another one? Do you want one of these things? And then that type of experience, whilst maybe good for some people, was certainly not an expectation I had. And I think it's worthwhile monitoring that type of activity. Can you help your senders who are using your platform to say, hey, maybe you're getting a little overzealous. You've just sent this person 17 emails a day for the last week. The chances are they're probably going to block you or do something which will impact, your service as well. So think about. I think this is a group effort to try and get what's happening. You look at the bounce rates, etc., but also think about what can you do to help senders just not be bad senders, right? And although the content was not malicious in nature, it's just like overwhelming, if you will.
I agree. Dan, I'm curious, have you got an analogy for us too?
No, I wasn't briefed that I need to come with a drunken analogy. But I generally agree. I think the key is just part of the magic of email, and we'll get to it hopefully later in the discussion as we look into the future, is like it survives because it's simple. It is, keep it simple. Send messages that you would want to receive. To Ross's point, we know you're eager to build a good relationship, but oh, maybe I do have an analogy. Don't be the person at the bar who is consistently asking people out over and over and over again and getting a rejection. If they were into you, they will let you know. There we go. We landed that plane. So I think it's more about like taking the long view and keeping it simple and just identifying who you are and making sure that we know to associate your traffic that is coming from you. The other thing, Guy, you asked about like how long does it take to recover? I think the key here is like you should be obsessing over how people perceive your messages in a similar way that we obsess over the customer experience or the user experience that we have for our platforms. And so to that end, we try to provide as much detail as we can. And you're going to ask, my reputation with Gmail. Well, the reputation is a proxy for that behavior that Marcel kind of alluded to, right? It is a backwards looking proxy for the way that users perceive your messages. And
Mm.
if you don't like what you see, then we suggest that you take action sooner rather than later, because the deeper you get in the hole, the harder it is to get out, right? And so we recommend that you use all the data you can and structure the customer relationship you want. And if people are not responding, evaluate why.
I really like that description of reputation as a backward-looking proxy. And I mean, Tom, you and I have both been in this game long enough. We know, reputation is not something you can just switch on or switch off at will, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think my best analogy is more of a mantra or quote, and that's nothing changes if nothing changes. And so, remembering that these reputation systems and algorithms are complex and dynamic, so these aren't binary switches. So if you've got issues, you can't just wait it out, right? It's about addressing, issues, making changes, proving changes to the system. And then I guess to follow on what all our panelists said, but Dan, remembering that it's not quote unquote the reputation system you're convincing, it's the user, right? The user's feedback is the primary driver into their reputation. This comes all the way back to this idea of wantedness, right? And that representative wantedness, and that's a direct connection to your outreach behaviors, into these systems and how you're satisfying your users. So take those signals and convert them into action and make changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to change gear a little bit. I think most of our listeners are going to be very aware that over the past year or two, there's been a raft of inbox developments, often underpinned by AI. So I'm thinking of things like the introduction of automatic email summaries and subscription management and relevant sorted inboxes. And it'd be great if we could just sort of dig into that a little bit to understand the intent behind these developments. Are these new features primarily about user control? Are they to provide efficiency? Is it to reduce risk? Possibly all three of these. Dan, your thoughts? I mean, it's quite a time to be in email marketing, isn't it?
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a super exciting time to be in email. Tom, you and I had this discussion in the past. Like when you think about the history of email, it started as the first digital communication tool. Everything you needed to get through was through email. And then over time, text came in and all these dedicated apps came in and started taking chunks out of email. And email became this long form way of communication. And I think today, or for Gmail, it was about a month ago, we are injecting a new life into email. We're taking all the benefits of a federated open system, open by default, that lends itself to long form and a lot of information, and we are supercharging it with the technology that was designed exactly to solve the problem of what do I need to do next? And today we're focused about marketers, but my favorite example is the PTA, right? Like they can send me 10 emails a day and I will never send them to spam. It is critical for me to know when the chess club is opening up and, when are the key dates for school. But it's hard to decipher what matters, right? And so from our perspective, we will keep obsessing over the best user experience we can. And it means we are going to keep asking our users, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? We're going to use all the tools in our toolbox to try to take our best guess, doing it, using machine learning and probability. And then we're going to apply AI on top of it to make the most sense of it. And that gives you an opportunity to strengthen your customer relationship, to make sure that you are sending messages that people want to receive, that they can take action on, that they can understand very quickly. And so from my perspective, this is a time to be in email. Email is about to get, a new and interesting life. And it's maybe its third or fourth life. I haven't been long enough to know. But it's gonna be super fun, and we're all gonna continue to invest and make it the communication platform that it is.
Outstanding. And I think, Ross, I want to not put words in your mouth, but I think that probably aligns with some of your thinking that, these changes, I guess senders sort of think of their subscribers as their customers, but of course they're your customers too, and you want to make sure they're having a great experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, as Dan said, AI is adding, it's a productivity tool for a lot of this, right? You get all this mail, trying to figure out which mail is important, how do I organize it, what do I need to look at? So this is really about, empowering the end user to make sure they get what they want out of their mailbox, right? In the shortest amount of time possible, right? As Dan alluded to, I get emails from school all the time. Some of them are useful, some of them are not, some of them are important. And, AI just really gives us the ability to help get that sort of information in front of the user at the right time. I will, so I'll add one point here. Don't try and game it. Don't try and, send things through that you think AI will do something with to make it look better or make it more relevant for the user or do those sorts of things. That it's any of that sort of gaming is actually something we look for already. We see it in attacks and we see it coming through. So please just focus on sending the right content with the right words. And, the systems are pretty good. They will pick up important emails. They'll pick those things out of it and help us get it to users. So gaming is probably going to be your worst enemy when it comes to this sort of, AI advancements we're making. But, it's really gauged around helping the productivity of the user on the other end, right? And sending good content with the right information will help us get it to the right place. You don't have to try and, put extra things in there. It's, to make us do something different.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I think, Marcel, I think we understand that AI can be used to amplify behavior, but, behaviors can be good or bad, and it's going to amplify both, I guess.
Yeah, well, whether it is AI or not, right? It doesn't really matter. Comes all down to user experience. We want senders to provide the best user experience to our mutual customers. We all want to provide the best user experience on top of that. Whether we use AI for that or not doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? It's a means to an end. And yes, AI helps in some cases. In some cases, it doesn't. So I think we shouldn't really focus too much on AI and gaming and all of these things. Bad senders or senders in between, they try to game the system anyway. Now they can do so with AI. Whoop-de-doo. I think we really need to focus on what matters, which is providing that great experience.
Ross, an interesting question in the chat, and I'm going to ask you for a very brief answer because we've still got plenty of ground to cover. But we're being asked if you could provide an example of what you mean by gaming.
So there's a few different ways that people do this. There's prompt injection attacks that we see coming through, which is, very much a phishing type of attack. But this is, hidden text at the top, which is not relevant to the actual mail to try and get the AI systems to do different things with it. There's a whole bunch of ways that people are trying to effectively, get the AI systems to, rate the mail differently. Generally, it's spammers, but I just want to make sure that as we focus on this, we don't think of AI as another opportunity to try and do something different. Just good content sent the right way, the system will do the right thing with it.
Guy, do you mind if I chime in as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
I could not agree more. I think prompt injection is bad by nature. Like it's abusive by nature. But hidden text has been leveraged in email quite a bit. And as we do shift into AI, I think one of the things that is going to be shifting is less hidden text, less support for hidden text. Don't stuff your emails with something that the user doesn't see. And you can think about it from your own personal lens. When you look at something and you say, this doesn't look right. Is this AI? Am I being spoofed? Am I looking at something that doesn't look right? We're going to have, we have systems today, and our systems are going to be much more sophisticated to identify them. And so if we identify to the gaming question that what you're sending is benign, it's not abusive, you're not trying to trick the user, but you're trying to trick our system, then we will take the enforcement action on it. And so doubling down on what Ross said, be good in what you said, be very clear to the user, don't hide anything from us so we can deliver your message, right? You don't want to fall in that bucket of, we're not sure about this, we are going to be the ones making the decision. Make it easy for us to see what you're communicating to our users.
That's awesome, Dan, and thanks for the additional clarification. Appreciate that. In a similar vein, in addition to the changes in subscriber inboxes, all three of you have been making recent changes to your sender tools as well. So we've seen the introduction of Postmaster Tools version 2. Yahoo's released their sender dashboard. Microsoft's been making changes to SNDS. What behaviors are you hoping to drive or reinforce with senders by making these tools available to them? Marcel?
It goes back to what we all said before, right? We want to help senders to create that good user experience, send emails our users want. And I personally believe in providing meaningful and actionable data in a privacy conscious way to senders, to our partners, really, because we're in the same boat, will help. And also to address, some of the other advice which might be floating out there, be it LinkedIn or whatever, TikTok, right? Telling you what you should be doing, not based on any real data or any real insight. So stop trusting random guys on the internet. Like, use the tools we actually provide and the data we provide, because I think that is a little bit more meaningful.
That's words to live
Dan,
by.
you're smiling
Stop
there. I think
trusting
you're in
people on the
agreement, aren't
internet.
you?
I'm just saying Marcel is giving great life advice. Don't trust random people on the internet.
There we go. Dan, while you got the mic, I mean, do you want to expand on that? I mean, it comes back to this idea that you're not against email senders. You're trying to help them be successful, aren't you?
Yeah, where did this notion come from? Like our job is to make sure that as the third leg in this communication platform, we deliver the messages that matter the most to you and your customers, right? And as Marcel said, every platform or system designed for good is going to be abused at some point. And so our job is to separate the abuse from the good-natured communication. We are putting a lot of effort into making sure that you have what you need to make sure that you're communicating with your customers the best you can. And the tools that we put out there are to help you succeed. And you can see at the level of documentation that we put out there, the level of sophistication that we put into our tools. It is all for you to obsess on and just make sure that you land your key messages.
Awesome. I'll tell you what, while you were saying that, a great comment came through the chat, which read, email is cheap to send and costly to mend. I think that's a nice summary. Ross, I feel like, you're probably in agreement with these statements, but possibly more to come as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. You can think of, the sender support tools and those sorts of things as really a proxy for how users are viewing you, more so than, how we view, although, obviously abuse will come through that. We are in the process of making more updates. So I know our tools are a little lacking, and we are actively working on updates to them, particularly around providing more visibility into domain information. But I will make a special call out here. A lot of small senders, they're the ones that generally have the most amount of trouble getting authentication and those things through. So, with the changes around sending 5,000 email, it's not too hard to get there, but, it's something that I feel like as a group, in the community wide, we should do a little bit more just to make sure the small senders are being taken care of, that we are helping them get auth right. They're usually the ones who don't really know about, these sort of tools, or to be able to check what's happening with things. And, they're very dependent on, both of us to come back to. So special note, let's help our small senders as much as our big senders.
I love that comment. It's such an important observation. Tom, I guess it goes without saying that you're a fan of anything that gives you more data to play with, right?
Completely. Yeah. And what came to mind just randomly a little bit was a saying I heard years ago. Think about the last discussion question and this one. Why do grandparents and grandkids get along so well? And the answer is because they have a common enemy. A little bit of a hit on the parents out there. But what I'm thinking about that is like senders and receivers have a common friend, right? And this is the recipient, right? This is the common customer that everybody's trying to please. And so I guess, yeah, I mean, what's encouraging here is that, receivers are providing this data to help senders do better, right? To get signals, to get feedback. And so it's sort of incumbent, I think, on marketers to think about this as teamwork, right? Not opposition, right? It's not senders versus receivers, but it's a combined effort, right, to drive this satisfaction in what makes it to the inbox. So pay attention to how AI is being applied or other productivity tools are being applied, to these systems, and think about how to align with them and massage your messaging and your structures into taking advantage. And with that end goal of, in a combined way, have the most satisfied user that you can.
Yeah, I agree with every word you said there. I would like to ask a slightly contentious statement. I mean, there's a lot of pretty complex technology underpinning how email works. And is there an argument that many email marketing senders might benefit from a deeper understanding of how email works? Ross?
Yes. Yeah, I
Short
think
answer.
we're the glue between them, right? People come to you to send email. It's really important you understand how email works, and being able to make sure that you pass all the right tests, that authentication is working. Back to my small senders, the number of doctor's surgeries that try and send me an appointment that never arrives because it fails authentication. This is the sort of thing where having an understanding of what we're doing, making sure we can help them get it set up, we can test the system for them. Just it's necessary. And a lot of the senders that are sending mail, particularly the small ones, have no idea what email is. They don't understand. It's just email, right? It just works. I just put in an address, I hit send, it works, right? So I really do think this is an area where the team, call us a team, can get together and make sure we all understand how email works, so that we are able to get the right messages to the right people.
How about you, Marcel? I mean, I think from conversations we've had, it's probably been an eye-opener during the last sort of year and a bit as you've educated people about the new standards you've introduced.
Yeah, it was astonishing. There were so many people out there who claim they know how email works, and then we found out they actually don't. And yet they provide services to these users who actually need to send an email, to what Ross was saying. The person sending these emails, they should not know about any of this works, right? Nobody needs to know how DMARC works. Just like, if you're using a car, you don't necessarily have to understand how any of that stuff works. You just want to get in there, turn it on, and have some fun. And it's on us at the team, as Ross was saying, to make sure everybody who is providing these systems and services understands how this works. And then we can then work together to make this better. But if somebody sits out there again on TikTok, LinkedIn, and claims, "Oh, I know how this works," and then we see the reality, that is not helpful.
Absolutely. And Dan, sort of looking at it through a slightly different lens, I mean, when email was first invented years and years ago, perhaps it wasn't intended to have to deal with some of the security challenges that it does nowadays, right?
Yeah, I mean, email is 44, 45. Like it's a long time for our technology to survive. And so I think what makes it magical is the fact that it is surviving and that all of you can leverage it to get in touch with your customers and deliver key messages. I think to some degree, we need more understanding at the middle layer of how the system works. And to Marcel's point, it needs to be invisible to your customers, right? Like, so there's us delivering the mail. There's a layer that enables the sending of mail, and there's customers who are trying to sell their goods or services online and are trying to promote their business. My take is that they should not be in the email business. It should be magical and easy and secure for them. The threats that come with email is something that we need to worry about. And the enablement of good sending practices is something that the companies between the senders and us need to worry about. And so it'd be great if everybody understood why we are asking you to identify yourself with these long named acronyms, SPF, DKIM, DMARC. They're just here to say, sign your content, put it in a signed envelope, and if the envelope is broken, what should we do with it, right? It'd be great if everybody understood the impact of an like the hygiene of list is critical, because if you send messages to people who no longer want to receive them, they're going to send you to spam. It's also critical to take advantage of unsubscribe and other critical things that we put out there to make sure that you are getting through. And I think that layer, it'd be great if we can dive into and have more experts that are not trying to create fear, that we are here to punish you, we are here against you. That's not at all the case. We are here to enable great customer relationships. And so we just want to do it in a secure way.
I agree. So, Tom, wrapping up this question, where does this leave us? Do email marketers need to know how to configure their mail servers?
Well, look, as an email nerd, as a data nerd, as a email advocate, I think 1,000,000% yes, right? I don't know if you need to run a mail server, but I think you need to understand the fundamentals of how the system works, right? It's taking responsibility to be a responsible transmitter in the system, right? And recognizing that this underlying protocol of SMTP is this beautiful, open standard. It's an elegant, system. It's been, running for going on 50 years or longer, and it's this cooperation, right, between these senders and these receivers and all the parts and in between. So I think if you lean in and understand how the system works, it's going to make you more capable for diving into your issues, right? To understand when something's broken, all the way through to how do you optimize and take advantage of the protocol enhancements that we're seeing, right? So these folks on the panel today, their systems support enhancements like AMP and schema, and other groups providing things like BIMI. So understanding how these pieces fit into the puzzle of the system, I think that can only make you stronger, end to end in terms of how you're crafting your overall program for messaging and being successful with your recipients.
And Guy, if I
That's
may,
absolutely right. Sorry to cut you across, you, Dan. We're getting close to the bottom of the hour when we need to be finished. I'm going to try and sneak in one more question and keep the responses reasonably quick. But while we're talking about AI, we're talking about security. I guess the downside is we're getting to a stage where AI enhanced phishing is near indistinguishable from legitimate, getting tongue twisted, legitimate email messaging. So how's this impacting the battle in terms of email security, message filtering, evolving to deal with this threat? And is there a role that email senders play to be good citizens in this fight, Ross?
Look, AI is just making it easier. And to be honest, I think what AI is mainly in the phishing space, where I see AI coming in, is predominantly in being able to respond to people who fall for the scam in the first place. It makes that job so much easier. I don't have to, hey, the response from Dan that said, oh, I won lotto. How can I give you my banking details? I used to have to deal with that manually. Now I can automate the response back to him to get all the details I need. So AI, is still sending emails, still doing the same things. Make sure you authenticate mail, make sure you're doing good stuff, and I think leave the AI abuse and attacks to us to deal with. I think is probably the short answer.
Absolutely. Dan, any thoughts in terms of perhaps better education in terms of what the agentic AI threat looks like?
what a time to be alive. Help us identify you as a good actor by doing all the things that Tom said. That was my last point. Like, as we shift into this larger field of threats that are going to be easier to put together, do your part by identifying yourself. We will invest all of our might in protecting the inbox, but you need to do your part. And you may not be a DMARC expert, but invest the time with your company, with your customers, to take all the security measures and make sure that you are protected. Every year, I need to reach out to one of the brands and let them know that they have been compromised. And so good governance and doubling down on these security measures will help protect you. And I can assure you that we are investing heavily in the anti-AI abuse threats that are coming in. This is where I spend most of my time. I think it's fascinating, but like, please do your part.
Wonderful. We need to wrap up, I'm afraid. I'm going to sort of give each of you a quick fire question. One sentence answers each, please. But if an email sender, our listeners, could do just one thing consistently well over the next year to ensure that their email is wanted by their users, what should it be, Ross?
Help the small senders, fight any abuse in the system, focus on customers. That's it.
Marcel?
Just repeating what I said, send email people one, put yourself into the receiver's shoes, like ask yourself, is this something I would want to receive? If the answer is no, don't do it.
Of course. Dan?
Obsess over the numbers each of our platforms give you to know where you stand.
100%. And Tom, you get to take us home.
Set and meet expectations with your customer for your email relationship with them.
100%. This has been such a brilliant session. My only regret is we didn't give ourselves twice as long, because I think we could have had a far deeper conversation, and there's so many questions from our listeners that we haven't even touched on yet. I think rest assured to our audience, we will do some follow-up comms, and we've got all of your questions. We'll look to pull together some blogs to help you answer them. Ross, Marcel, Dan, thank you so much for giving up your time to join myself and Tom today. Brilliant conversation. I can only tell you the chat has been absolutely on fire while you guys have been talking today, so really appreciate it. To our audience, I think if you want to learn more, all three, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, all publish fantastic sender guidelines with more advice helping you to be better senders. I strongly recommend having a look if you're not familiar with them. We'll be publishing a new deliverability report later this month. It'll actually have all of the links to those resources in it, so grab a copy. And it's now time for us to leave the virtual room, get ready for the awesome Leah Miranda with the next session, how to make post-event follow-up not suck for you or your customers. We'll be back very shortly. Thanks, and bye for now.